Hey everyone, we're going to solve both of these inequalities, and we're going to do this algebraically. All right, so basically to do it algebraically, first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this and subtract 1 from both sides. So basically this here has to be negative. When it says less than 0, that means negative. So when I factor this, I'm going to get 2m plus 1 times m minus 1 is negative. And if you solve for this, if you set this to 0, 2m plus 1 is less than 0. You get 2m is less than negative 1, so m is less than negative 1/2. And for this one, you're going to get m is less than 1. You can do this sign diagram and see what's going on with this. So we're going to put in our negative 1/2 and 1. So put negative 1/2 and 1. So what we want to see is what's going on with the intervals. And this is going to be good practice for when you start your polynomials, because it's going to be a little more complicated. We want to know what's going on in between these intervals. Again, these are your x-intercepts. So we have 1 to infinity. All right, if you plug in, say, negative 1. If I plug negative 1 in here, I'm going to get a negative. If I plug negative 1 in this quantity, I get negative. And negative times a negative is positive. For the middle interval, let's plug in 0. If I plug in 0 here, I get positive times a negative. That's going to be negative. And if I plug in 2, I get positive times a positive. Gives you a positive. Well, according to our equation, we want negative. So that's going to be right in here. So we're going to write it as x, such that x is in between negative 1/2 and 1. It doesn't have an equal sign here, so we don't put an equal sign for these. We just leave it as less thans. Okay, for the second one, if you just look at this, there's no number of y that's going to be less than negative 8. So if I put negative 2 in here, square it, it can't be less than negative 8. Because any square you get is going to be positive. So a positive cannot be less than a negative. It has to be greater than a negative. Another way to think of this is you could write this as y squared plus 8 is less than 0. And what happens here is you get complex solutions. So there's no real solutions. So you can say there's no real solutions. You can say it's the empty set. Some people call it the null set. But there's nothing that satisfies this equation or inequality. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.